Hello friends, in this presentation I will talk about EPVs and how they behave when you deploy a snapshot from process center to process server. So according to the IBM documentation, you can set this EPV deploy default either false or true. By default, when you install the product, it's set as false. So obviously, based on the settings, your snapshot deployment may take default values of the EPV, or you can sync it from the previous snapshot. So in real life scenario, you already have a snapshot in the production environment. So now you want to deploy a new snapshot, and you may want to sync it from the previous snapshot. Here in the process server, I have a snapshot VS8609. Now I have a snapshot VS8609. Let's see the EPVs of this snapshot. Go to the manage EPVs, select the EPV for this snapshot. As you can see, this snapshot has a EPV, current EPV, and then it has two change records. So this change records has effective date. So whenever you change EPV, it stores these records. These are called change records. So when you deploy a new snapshot, you want these change records to copy over to your newly deployed snapshot, and the current value for the newly deployed snapshot to be set as the current value shown in here. Now let me change the current value to something else for this demo purpose. So I'm changing it to some new value as shown on the screen, setting the time like when it needs to take the effect. Okay, now we have three change records, and then new change record that is showing here will take effect on the effective date. So if I refresh, it should take the new value that we just changed. Okay, good. So now it has three records with the current value as shown here. Okay, so now let's deploy a new snapshot with some default value. So I'm going to the designer, open a new designer, and going to the EPV. So let me change the snapshot default value to something new. Okay, change it. Now let's see how it is deployed to the new snapshot, how it behaves. So taking the new snapshot 8610, let's deploy it. and I'm leaving the instances because I just want to see the behavior when we just deploy the snapshot without syncing the settings. So let it deploy. Okay, the snapshot is deployed. Let's go to the process admin console. Go to the admin tools, manage EPVs, select EPV, so as you can see that the current value is the default value from the design time, and important part is there is no change record for this EPV when we just deploy the snapshot. This is very important. Since there is no change record, right, we can sync this value from the previous snapshot. Now go to the install labs, go to the current snapshot. We can sync settings from the previous snapshot. Go select this value and hit sync. So it will sync because we don't have any latest change record on the new target snapshot. So the value, the current value of the newly deployed snapshot, which was default snapshot, default value from the design time, can be overridden from the current value of the previous snapshot. So I'm selecting the previous snapshot, and then see all the change records came over to the newly deployed snapshot, and the current value is from the previous snapshot from where we synced the setting. Let's do another experiment. So I want to change this value, okay, which was taken from the previous snapshot, to a new value. So select the EPV variable, new, change something to something different. So I'm selecting a current time just to differentiate between the previous value and the current value. So this change record will take effect on the effective date, which is now. So if I select it again, it should reflect, the current value should reflect to this value. So select it, see the current value, change it as per the effective date. So this is the current value on the target snapshot. Now let's try to sync it again from the previous snapshot. V8609 is the previous snapshot. See, earlier it worked when you just deploy the snapshot, it worked. Now let's see if it works again if we sync. Go to the server admin, manage EPVs, select the snapshot. See, it did not work, right? It didn't, this time it did not sync. Even though we did the same action, it did not sync. The reason being the effect date. So the effective date on the new target snapshot is latest than the previous snapshot. So it is very important to remember this effective date settings on the EPVs. It's not like sync always takes from the previous snapshot. It checks what is the latest record between the two snapshots, okay, and then take it. Now let's go back to the previous snapshot. and then change the current value of the previous snapshot to something else, like the current time, which is 8:19 p.m. So select the future time 8:19, just change the seconds. So the value should be the latest one if I refresh it. So the change record select EPV again. So the value is 8:19 p.m. Now this is the latest record between the two snapshots. So let's check what's the current value. So current value is 8:16 on the new deployed snapshot. Now I can sync it from the previous snapshot because previous snapshot has the latest change record. Go to the event manager. It must have already synced. If you see it, the current value is synced. So this behavior, checking the latest snapshot and then syncing, it does not depend on the setting. Okay, now let me change this setting to true and then restart the environment. Now let's take a new snapshot with the time is 10:09 now. So 10:09, save it and then create a new snapshot V8614. Sorry, I took several snapshots in between, that's why it's showing 8614. Don't worry about it. Now we will deploy it with the EPV setting as true. I already changed it. Install it. Okay. And I'm not migrating because we want to see the behavior without syncing, with just deployment of the snapshot. So while it's deploying, let me show you the setting. So let me clear it again. So right now the setting is true. Okay, so when you're changing the 100 custom XML, make sure the value is, there are no spaces between these opening and closing tags. Okay, so now it's deployed. Go to the process admin console on the inspector, go to server admin tools, manage EPVs. Data snapshot is 14 and then select EPV. So now if you see this one, right, if you see the change record, okay, the default change record, okay, is there, but when we deploy the snapshot with the setting false, there was no change record, right? So this means this is the latest, right? So if you see that this is the deployment time, the effective date. Now if I go ahead and sync from the previous snapshot, it will not sync. The reason being, between the change records of source and target, this is the latest effective date, because this record sits on the top if you sort it by the effective date. That's why the current value cannot be synced from the previous snapshot. Let's try it. Sync settings, it doesn't matter which snapshot you choose, so it will never ever can be synced. but there's a so go to server admin tools, manage EPVs 14. See, it's still the default value, but if you see the change records, of the previous snapshot came here, right? See, it is supposed to be the new value, but it did not, because the latest change record is the 10:10, which is the deployment time. So if you want to sync it from the previous snapshot, what can be done is go to the previous snapshot and then change the value to like something like, now the time is 10:13 p.m. so changed 10:13 and then like 53 seconds. Okay, 10:13. so if you refresh it again, so now it's changed, the current value is 10:13. so since this record is at 10:13, okay, which was after the snapshot deployment, it can be synced. That means it can be transferred to the new target snapshot. Go to the install apps, 614. This is what we did exactly before. Sync settings 10. And one thing I observed is, don't worry about this EPV sync. That doesn't mean it's going to affect, okay, whether it syncs or not. It always shows the values, okay, but it doesn't mean that it's going to. But in this case now it is. But if you see, observe the, don't talk about this one. So now it must be synced on the target snapshot. See, because the time is after the deployment. So this is very important behavior. So always set it to false unless you have specific use case. Thank you.